because it was a hard time when the airport was closed down in the last weeks. All the best, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. President, Mrs. CEO, and ladies and gentlemen. I would also like to extend my welcome to you for coming to this conference. As you can imagine, we are very excited. I mean, we are very excited because finally something is happening after all these weeks of desperations. And I'm very excited personally because I'm sort of getting closer to home. I have an interest here in the neighborhood, and I love this part of the world. I love the Austrian Alps. I ski quite a lot in winter time. I try to play as much golf as I can in summertime, and there is not many better places for these activities than this area here. So that's a lovely part of the world, and I'm very glad to be here today. And also importantly, from a business perspective, we have been eyeing Salzburg Airport actually for quite a while, and we have been having discussions, and I'm glad that finally we landed on a platform which I think suits each of the parties interested in doing business here, and we are glad to be here today and to make a very significant announcement to you. So before actually taking you through the announcement, I would just like to give you a bit of a background on how we see life. Well, first of all, you know, we are here in Salzburg because, believe it or not, but actually when you look at the Wizz Air network and you try to figure out the geographical centric point of our network, the very center of our network actually is here in Salzburg. So when you draw the map and you run the mathematics on the map and you try to find the center point, this is here in Salzburg. So we are today in the very heart of our network actually. But probably more importantly, it is a very significant region in terms of economic performance. It's a sizable population, highly attractive from a tourism perspective. You bring a lot of tourists to this region. Tourism is very important to your economy, and we're seeing that this is an attractive market all year round. Great for skiing in winter time, great for summer activities, alpine activities in summer times. And you know, we're seeing that our business model, which is a highly efficient low-cost carrier model, is totally suitable to the conditions you as a market can offer and you as an airport can accommodate. So that's why we are here today. So if you kind of look around what's been happening in Salzburg, the three largest airlines today are Eurowings, Austrian, and EasyJet. We have no presence here, so this is our entree to Salzburg, and I'm pretty sure that we can scale our operations up quite significantly, fairly quickly, to become a significant airline here in Salzburg and contribute to the economic developments of the region. If I go back 16 years, when Wizz Air was taking off, first flight was May 19, 2004. We had one simple purpose in mind why we created this airline, and that was to liberate people's life and to make sure that air travel is affordable and accessible to everyone. And here we are today, 16 years later. We are carrying 40 million passengers. That's our passenger count last year. I think we have made this airline quite significant and impactful in Europe. And here we are in Salzburg to try to carry the mission forward what we put in place 16 years ago. And if you look at the network today, you see that it's a truly European airline. Actually, if there is one thing what you can call the product of the European Union, that should be called Wizz Air. I mean, we are in existence because of the European Union. That made it possible to create an airline, to go beyond the national boundaries of countries and penetrate the European market as a whole. And obviously we are very proud of that development. And we want to be good European. You were referring to Mozart being a good European and the whole region being good European. I think we want to be good European, and we are a good European in essence. As you can see, we have been growing this business ever since. Last year, I said 40 million passengers we carried. We grew 19%. We were the fastest growing airline in the whole of Europe last year. But we shall see how this year is gonna end up. I mean, obviously, we have a situation we need to deal with as an industry. But having said all of that, you know, we are here today to make announcements on prosperity of the business and growth of the business and expansion of the network. So I think we try to maintain a constructive view on life and look through the current issues and to make sure that we stay focused on the future to do what we have to do as one of the leading airline businesses in Europe. To date, we have carried 240 million people. We have a very extended network. If you look at the footprint of our network, we are operating well over 700 routes to 44 countries in total. We have 29 operating bases where we are basing aircraft and crews. And this is one of the largest airline footprints in the world, actually. We are one of the top 10 airlines globally with such a geographical expansion and such a geographical footprint. We think that this is kind of the essence of our business, especially short-haul flying has become a commodity. And we know in commodity businesses, the lowest cost prevails as a concept, and we are now the lowest cost producer. So when you look at our cost production compared to other airlines, this is 2019, this takes fuel out of the equation. But if you add fuel, actually we would become even more efficient and more competitive, simply because we are flying the youngest fleet of aircraft, and as such we burn less fuel relatively to the others. But if you take fuel out of the equation, we are now the lowest cost producer, lower cost than any other airlines, including other low-cost carriers, and certainly much lower cost production than the legacy network carriers. And when you look at this chart, the legacy network carriers look quite good because their long-haul flying is also included in the numbers, and we know that the longer you fly, the lower the unit cost will be, simply because you don't burn fuel and costs on landing and taking off. So we are a very competitive business, the lowest cost production, what we bring to the market, and we think that makes us a very formidable competitor, and we are in best position to weather the storm, whatever direction the storm is coming. And you know, here we are today in COVID-19, in the middle of it, and we were the last airline to go and the first airline to come back. I mean, you know, most of the airlines are still dragged into what to do next, how many people to fire, how many routes to stop, how many aircraft to ground. But now we are making announcements on looking at the future and continuing to build our presence in different markets. I also think being green, being environmentally responsible will gain increasing traction going forward. I think it is already very topical, and it is already a very important agenda item, especially in Europe, but it's just going to be increasingly more important going forward. And I'm very pleased to tell you that if you look at airlines' environmental performance, there is no environmentally friendlier airline than Wizz Air. This is the function of a few things. One is that we are flying actually the youngest fleet of aircraft. Our fleet age is around 5 years. You don't have to go that far when you look at Austrian Airlines. Their fleet age is around 15 years. Lufthansa is closer to 20 years. So we fly a much younger fleet of aircraft, much more modern technology, and as a result, obviously, the impact on environment resulting from technology is much less. We are also operating a very efficiently engineered aircraft, A320, A321, with large seat count, which creates a lot of not only economic efficiency in production, but also environmental efficiency on a per passenger basis. Our carbon dioxide emission is by far the lowest, as you can see, relative to other airlines. And we operate very efficiently ourselves. So we achieve high load factors. We fill the planes. Last year we had 94% average load factor, which makes the whole production very favorable from an environmental standpoint. And very importantly, we have been able to reduce our environmental footprint every year. And that will be the case going forward as we will continue to take new aircraft deliveries. And talking about aircraft, we are one of the few airlines that has a very significant aircraft order book. Now, today you may say that this is a credit, or you may say this is a liability. In my mind, this is a credit because that gives us the opportunity to continue to invest into markets, to continue to bring in better products, better technology, creating more economic efficiency and more environmental efficiency as well. And interestingly, when you look at how the industry is moving at this point in time, most of the industry is sort of looking backwards, and they are cutting and stopping and squeezing and grounding, which means essentially that airlines are deferring aircraft deliveries, they are cancelling aircraft orders, so they will continue to rely on old technology, and as a result, their economic efficiency will go on a detriment, and their unit cost is going to go up, and their environmental impact is going to be worse and worse every year. And at the same time, we continue to take new aircraft, and we are improving our cost advantage versus the market, and we are simply going to become more friendly from an environmental perspective as well. We are going to take 22 new aircraft deliveries in the next 14 months. I don't think there is any other airline in Europe that would do that. Most of the airlines are not taking any aircraft deliveries. And this is important because we need to look live beyond coronavirus, and we will be in a much better competitive position by flying new aircraft, competing with other airlines flying old aircraft. And as you can see, in about 7 years from now, we are expecting our fleet to reach around 300 aircraft versus 122 today. I think you know more about COVID-19 than me, so I'm not trying to explain it to you, but maybe just a few highlights from an industry perspective. What we are seeing today is that actually people want to go, people want to fly, people want to move. The problem is not people's desire or people's fear of flying or anything like that. The problem is the restrictions which are in place limiting people's ability to move around and to do what they want to do in their destination markets. And if that is one thing I would say disappointing from a European perspective, that the European Union has not been able to coordinate actions here. And we are flying to 44 countries in total, and there are not 2 countries that would have implied the same measures or would have interpreted the same measures the same way. So things have gone quite messy and quite uncoordinated. I appreciate that health is a national sovereign right of countries, but I think Europe should have done a better job by orchestrating and coordinating efforts of various countries. And as a result, I think we are dragging more into the issue, and we are making a more negative economic impact on life as a result. But as far as travel demand is concerned, we are confident that travel demand is actually going to come back quite significantly, maybe not at the level where it was in 2019, but we will see more people with a desire to travel than what we think today. We are doing a lot of researches ourselves, and we are looking at other data points through Google, Skyscanner, etc. And our understanding is that around 70% of the people want to travel in the next few months. Actually, 30% want to travel in the next 2 months. So people are there to go, and they will go as soon as they can, as soon as the restrictions are eased with regard to their movements. Looking at it from a business perspective, we are the airline that was very keen on maintaining operations. So unlike some of our competitors, I think Austrian Airlines is one of them, that stopped operations completely. We didn't do that. We felt it was important that we continue to operate. We maintain the spirit of flying. I think it is also important emotionally inside the company that we stay engaged and associated with the business, and we keep thinking about life and what's going to come post crisis. So we have remained operational throughout the whole period, even to an extent that we have done like 120 Chinese medical cargo flights mostly for the Hungarian government, and around 50 repatriation flights, even flying to the United States, picking Europeans and bringing them back home to Europe. But also we have maintained our scheduled operations. At the moment we are flying around 10% of our services, and we hope to scale up significantly in June as restrictions are getting eased. And probably most importantly, the real measure in the industry is the liquidity and cash on hand held by airlines. We got into coronavirus with 1.5 billion euros of free cash, and today we have 1.5 billion euros of free cash. So we have been doing very well for preserving cash, and that 1.5 billion euros would take us over 24 months. Even if we don't fly a single flight, we would still be in business in 24 months. Various analysts have done analysis on the industry, how airlines are doing from a liquidity perspective, and by far Wizz Air is the most resilient airline with the most cash on hand relative to the size of operations to survive and to weather this storm. So we are very confident in our ability to go through this, and we are not begging for government support. We are not Lufthansa, we are not Austrian Airlines that got blown out of business basically within weeks, and they had to start begging from the governments for taxpayers' money to get that business bailed out. We are not bailed out, and we are not going to be bailed out. We have sufficient cash on hand ourselves to maneuver ourselves out of this crisis. We also stepped up when it comes to sanitary measures. While I think that today's aircraft is incredibly safe, especially when it comes to viruses and those sort of issues, if you look at the quality of air aboard of an aircraft, our aircraft, it is comparable to the quality of air of a hospital, of the intensive care unit of a hospital. So by design, by engineering design of an aircraft, air circulation system provides a very high quality, and it is kind of counter virus friendly. So you know, people are in good hands when they take a flight with airlines. Not only our airline, but also other airlines too. But you know, as we are flying the latest technology of aircraft, obviously we are more advanced on safety and health measures as well than probably the rest of the industry. Having said all of that, we think we needed to step up to make sure that we are reacting to consumer concerns in terms of sanitary measures, and we just made a small video to show you how we are stepping up and what measures we are applying with that regard. It's time now to talk about the business in Austria. You may recall that Wizz Air came to the Austrian market about 2 years ago, and I would say that we've had a very successful operations over the last 2 years here in Austria. We were a neutral party in Vienna, and by now we are one of the established airlines with a significant scale in your capital. Right now we are flying 60 routes or selling 60 routes. We are not flying 60 because of the restrictions, but we are selling 60 routes as we speak. And we have already carried 3 million passengers. So quite significant start and quite a significant scale up and quite significant operations to date. And we have created over 2,000 jobs as a result of our operational activities in Vienna. So let's now switch to Salzburg, and this is really the purpose of the visit and the press conference of the day today. So I'm very glad to announce 6 new routes. We are going to start to Salzburg on the 1st of July. So in 5 weeks, you will see more our planes here at the airport. We are bringing 200,000 seat capacity on an annualized basis to the airport. That will certainly enhance the connectivity of the region. Mr. President talked about the importance of connectivity here. I mean, it is not only a very attractive region for tourism, but also it is an economic center of this part of the world, and I think connectivity is very important. So we hope that we can add value with that regard, and certainly I think we will be a significant factor also in boosting your tourism industry. So these routes are the following. So we are now connecting Belgrade, Kiev, Skopje, Bucharest, Tuzla, and Larnaca to Salzburg. I would say this is the start, and we are very happy to be here today, and that's quite a significant start. I mean, this is six routes, and I would hope that many more to come, and quite frequently I should be back on the stage here and make further announcements. And with that, it is just showing it on the map. And thank you for your attention, and I would hand it over to Bettina now. Thank you.
Yes, warm welcome also from my side. Dear Ms. President, dear Brigitte, dear CEO Officer, dear Joseph, distinguished guests and representatives of the media. This airport has a long history. 94 years it started to give more and better and more convenient access into this market and for the people of this market into the world. The main reason is what celebrates the 100th birthday this year, even if it's a bit shortened. The Festspiele was the one which caused this airport to be created in the first place, because they wanted everyone to participate in this huge peace project after the horrible results of World War I. Since then, the airport had better and worse experience throughout the times, but what we aim for is to grow our direct network, and the spirit of then is still prevalent today, is to give direct access throughout Europe wherever those destinations are viable. This doesn't happen overnight. What is mandatory is that you step into a deep analysis of the market data, of passenger demand data, that you look how people move across Europe to find out which destinations might fit to the portfolio of Salzburg Airport. We did our homework, and we're still doing it because such demand patterns change over time. And then we are looking out into the market to find the right airline with the right type of aircraft where we believe it fits from the number of frequencies it can offer. And when we find the airline, the best suitable candidate, then we sincerely hope to convince the airline to share our perspective on this specific route. We do this not only for tourism, we do this for all the business who have their headquarters here. We do this also for everyone who would like to visit friends and families. We do this for all the people who live here who would like to experience the world. And we have to do this because we are deeply rooted in this region, and our purpose is to make the best connectivity of this region into the world, the best direct connectivity, always better in a direct flight because you save at least one stopover. We had some blank spots in our demand lists, which were heavily on the Eastern Europe side. And I'm very happy that with Wizz Air, and thanks also to Joseph, we are now able to color those blank spots in. Because Austria has a long history and deep roots also in business in this region, and it's much easier accessible now. And access and connectivity, it was count. And I'm very happy also that we can also be very happy about that we got an airline which has a very new fleet. I think this is a very important thing nowadays, and that they are flying state-of-the-art in regard to ecologic and economic standards, because not only are those aircrafts not as loud as others, they are also much more fuel efficient, and all the emissions are considerably lower than older ones. So it's like a double package. And the sugar drop on top is that we have one summer destination with Lanaka, which was already published yesterday, but don't disregard the 5 very, very important East Europe destinations, because I think that Tuzla, Skopje, Belgrade, Bucharest and Kiev are really something we have been looking forward to, and I'm very happy to start the operation together with you beginning of July. So again, a warm welcome, and I hope that Wizz Air will welcome a lot of passengers using those new routes starting. It will be slow beginning, but in the end, I'm very confident it will be a very valuable addition to us. So thank you for everyone who was participating in this endeavor, and I'm wishing this new partnership all the best. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Mrs. Ganghofer and Mr. Varadi. Now we are starting an open answer and question round before we are going to the single interviews. Just give me a hand sign and I will come to you. No questions?
Everything was said. We saw everything. So we did good, yeah.
So, hello. Yes, you can hear me? Good. Good to see you again, Joseph. Welcome to my home airport. How is Vienna doing, actually, as you restarted one of the first airlines? And why Salzburg and this kind of routes to Eastern Europe? And how complex is it for you now with all this, as you mentioned before, chaotic scenery between the borders, travel restrictions, to speed up again with more flight connectivities within Europe?
No, thank you, Kurt. You know, Vienna is kind of a difficult start. We were very keen on becoming the first airline to start. We were the last airline to stop Vienna, and we wanted to be the first airline to start, simply because we have been pushed by consumers. Demand is there. Unfortunately, we have been facing a number of situations that last minute we had to cancel the flight because restrictions got extended. And every time we are selling a flight, we are selling that flight in the knowledge that the flight is going to be operated. But unfortunately, we don't fully control our own destiny, because it is the discretion of governments to keep changing deadlines to restrictions. And typically, we have seen quite a number of extensions in the last period. So the scale of the Vienna restart was not as great as we would have hoped at the time of the announcement. But we have a number of routes we are operational, and I think the experience what we have is very positive. So we are getting around 70% of the seats sold, which is not bad. I mean, you know, we are operating A321 aircraft with 230 seats, so we are selling around 160, 170 seats per flight, per aircraft. So I think that's pretty good, and it's just showing that the demand is surging and people want to come back into flying, and they want to travel, and they want to move. We are still affected by the unpredictability of restrictions, although my sense is that pretty much led by Germany and Austria in a way, that now we are on the move on easing restrictions, and with some careful kind of a schedule, hopefully the next few weeks will eliminate some of the barriers what we are seeing and we are dealing with in the system. So my summary is, yes, people want to go, but the whole system is subject to restrictions, and you know, we are at the mercy of governments how they decide with that regard. But at least we are moving now. I think Vienna is also very interesting from a competitive standpoint. Vienna used to be a market that nothing really happened to for long years. I mean, someone in Vienna told me that if the Third World War breaks out, come to Vienna, because everything happens 15 years later in Vienna. And that's a Viennese who told me. So you had a feeling for decades with regard to Vienna, but 2 years ago everything changed. I think the airport implied a very different strategy. It became commercially attractive, and they attracted a lot of airlines. But now we are seeing quite a lot of backtracking, and we are seeing competitors leaving the market. And I think that gives Wizz Air a unique opportunity to further step up and actually make a bigger impact on the marketplace. So I think that's sort of where we are, and why we are here in Salzburg. We think Salzburg is a great market, and we have been looking at Salzburg really for a long time. And if you look at our activities, not only in Vienna, but we entered Munich-Memmingen Airport, which is not Salzburg, but sort of somewhat closer to the region, and we have done very well. I think better than expected, and we felt that it was really time for penetrating Salzburg Airport, and we have been able to come to grips with the various operational and commercial matters, and here we are. And I would be actually very hopeful that this is really just the start of operations here, and we can do more. I mean, we have a very extensive network. We have 29 operating bases announced at the moment, and we are now only connecting really 6 to Salzburg. So, you know, just on mathematics, there are another 23 opportunities in a way, just looking at our base operations, and we will be very keen in the coming period to look at other options, other new route opportunities, and try to grow as much as we can here in Salzburg. So, and given the Vienna backdrop, in a way that now we are becoming a significant airline in Austria, we think that this is the right time, not only for entering, but also further penetrating and growing our presence here in Salzburg.
Thank you. Just a moment.
Just one add-on. Can you imagine that maybe you will expand Salzburg to a base, or how many routes you need in Salzburg to launch a base? And you do something quite interesting in Abu Dhabi. So Abu Dhabi Salzburg could be in the future interesting.
Possibly, yes. I mean, you know, we need to crawl before we run. So let's move step by step. And the first step is, you know, creating a footprint, bringing the franchise, building the brand, creating awareness for Wizz Air. This is what we're going to be focused on. And you know, I could of course imagine a situation or a platform that we are turning the operation into a base platform. But you know, before doing it, I think we have plenty of opportunities for expanding the network without necessarily basing aircraft here. But that's a distinct opportunity for the future as well. Well, with regard to Abu Dhabi, we are going to start Wizz Air Abu Dhabi in October time. I think it's a very exciting initiative. Totally groundbreaking. There is no European low-cost carrier expanding in the Middle East. We are the first one to go there, and we think there is a lot of potential between Europe and the Middle East, and Wizz Air Abu Dhabi will try to tap into that traffic flow. We would need another aircraft for flying Salzburg Abu Dhabi. We would need the A321 XLR aircraft, which we are going to start taking delivery of in 2023, so in good 3 years from now. Should we have that aircraft on hand to fly, we would certainly look at Salzburg as a distinct opportunity for that, but it would be premature today to make any commitment on that.
Thank you, Mr. Varadi. Next questions, please.
Good morning, Gerhard Kunschig, freelance. Mr. Varadi, I understand the 5 of the 6 destinations are with a pretty ethnic background, and one is a touristic destination. Were you considering other touristic destinations from Salzburg, such as, in my mind, it would be appropriate to fly to Barcelona or Malaga or Valencia, like you do from Vienna?
Oh, absolutely. I think this is really to start. We're seeing that, by working together with the airport, understanding the market gaps, we felt that was the right set of destinations to start with. But going forward, of course, we would not only look at inbound traffic, but we would also look at outbound traffic, and with that regard, we would look at some possible leisure routes, and we would be exploring those opportunities. I just don't want to make any pre-commitment at the moment, and I don't want to speculate, but definitely this is the start, and we would be expanding not only eastbound, but we could potentially look at westbound expansion as well.
Any further questions? I think the most journalists want to have a single interview with you. So we will close the open discussion, and thank you for coming, and you have time after the press conference to take a personal interview with Ms. Ganghofer, with Ms. Ballauf, or with Mr. Varadi. Okay, Ms. Ballauf has to leave, so we have Mr. Varadi and Ms. Ganghofer for the interviews. Thank you very much.